Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS-FM proudly presents A Community Affair, a weekly program where we discuss with national and local newsmakers important issues that impact our community. And now, here's your host, WGLS-FM Public Affairs Director, Jackson Baird.
It's no secret that in America today, the story is go to college to get your degree to get a high-paying job later on in life, throughout your entire life. But how exactly do you get into college in the first place for students and for parents? How do parents help their child find the right college for them? How do they prepare them for college? How do they acquire the financial means to get them through college? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today on A Community Affair as we welcome Stephen Sirot and David Slater onto the program. Both men are the co-founders of College Benefits Research Group, which is all about helping people prepare for college, both students and parents. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We will begin, before we get into what I just mentioned, we'll first tackle some background information on both of yourselves. What sort of work have you done prior to founding CBRG? What led you to this point?
So I'm going to start us off. My background, I've got an MBA in finance, information systems from Rutgers. I've been in the financial services industry since 1988, and cradle to grave planning was where I was raised, so I am all sorts of backgrounds in that. In 2006, as all of my clients were having kids that were growing into the college sort of prep environment inside their world, a lot of them had been asking me along the way, how do we plan for college? And we had always put money into places like 529s and savings, but they really didn't have an answer I didn't have an answer when they said, well, how are we going to get into the right schools? And more importantly, can we get money from them? And so in 2006, I started to do some research on the field of financial planning for college and realized that there was a real big gap between what was out there being offered by the service industry, which I'll consider the investment community, the insurance-based community, and the financial planners in general. They really had no background in this. And then there was a special group of people that all they did was help kids find the right colleges, but they didn't do anything with the financial aid or any of that sort. So parents were really left on their own. And when you think about the largest expenses that a person should fund for, college is really right now up with them. So we started to look. I actually did a lot of research and started to find out that there was a handful of people out in the United States that were doing a really good job of sort of organizing an attack, if you will, on how to find the right colleges, how to analyze. If you have 4,000 schools, you can't go visit 4,000 schools. It's not possible. So how do you do something in a more manageable and efficient manner? And then how do you start to analyze it from a financial position? What is the right amount of money to pay for college? What are the values? And how are you going to actually get money from colleges? So that's the genesis of how we got into it, and it's been growing since 2006.
Now, if I could add to that was my partner, David. When David first came to me, talking to me about college planning as a specific focus, my first gut reaction was, why? What do I need this for? I have a successful financial advisory practice, and my clients are happy. I don't really see the need for this so much. And David said, look, Steve, the bottom line is we know a lot about retirement planning or business succession planning or things like that, but we don't know enough about how to help people find the best way to fund and finance a college education, which is one of the biggest expenses a family has to face. And you need to know this for your clients. And that's really how David enrolled me. It made sense to me. And the fact that he had been doing so much research and finding out things that so many people didn't know about really how to lower the cost of college, maximize financial aid awards, and above all, help their students make the right choices for themselves and for their whole family. He got me on that. once we started to implement that part into our practice, something unexpected happened, and we started to get a lot of people that were coming to us saying, I heard you guys know all about how to help us with college, and that's what they wanted to talk about. And so I turned right back around to Dave, and I said, you know what, Dave? There's a demand for this. It's not being served. We should open this up as a specific business. And that's why in 2008, we founded College Benefits Research Group. And it's been an amazing ride. It's growing every year, and we love what we do.
Do you find that, because in that answer you mentioned a lot of stuff about financial aid. That seems to be a very pressing issue. Would I be accurate to say that financial aid is the area College Benefits Research Group focuses on the most when it comes to getting both students and parents ready for college?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. The idea of paying for college is not focused on by high schools because they're not allowed to ask anything about financial information from the parents. I mean, can you imagine you go into a high school, you sit down with an advisor who's talking to your student, and they don't ask you one question about what you make, how you have your assets, and anything like that? I mean, could you imagine giving your kid no budget to go buy their first car and they come back with a Maserati and a Bergata? I mean, come on. There's got to be a budget involved. So it's not that we only focus because it's not our focus, but it's part of the equation that's totally not dealt with by the high schools, and they're not qualified to do it. They have no background in it, and they're not allowed to. Not to mention they don't have the facilities or the time to do so.
So definitely that was a big motivation for us, the affordability of college and the financial aspect. But very quickly, we also realized that it's not just about affording college. It's helping your student find the right college and be the best applicant they could be so that they get into and are desired by the colleges they're applying to. And we didn't have as much expertise in that as we needed, so we actually partnered with an academic advisor that had been working with students for literally decades, unbelievably qualified. Her name is Loren, and she visits between 50 and 75 schools every year. She works with our students on their applications and essays and interviews and college choice. So it really is all about finding the balance of academic, social, and financial fit for the student and the family, and that's really CBRG's mantra.
So when it comes to financial aid, because it's certainly a pressing issue, there are a lot of different ways to get financial aid. The FAFSA comes to mind. How exactly, if I'm a student looking to get into college, but I might not exactly have the financial means, how do I go about finding financial aid, applying for it, getting it, and simply managing it?
So first of all, like anything else, and I use the analogy of going to buy a car, you really do have to be mindful of price, don't you? So part of what we do is we sit down and we help students and parents understand what budget and what is possible, because just because you can borrow something doesn't mean you could afford to pay it back. When you're talking about financial loans and the forms that you're describing, the financial aid forms like the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, that's the government form. It's a federal document, and it is something you can pick up at the library. It's not a difficult document to get your hands on, but all of the colleges require it, and the government requires it in order for you to qualify as a student to get money from the government. The government is willing to guarantee up to $5,500 the first year, $6,500 the second year, $7,500 the third year, and $7,500 the fourth year.
As a loan.
As a loan to these students, as long as they complete this document. And there is on this document a requirement for the parents as well as the students to fill out information.
But the issue with the FAFSA is that doesn't get filled out until the earliest January of the senior year. And once that's filled out, the government comes back and tells you what they think you should be able to, quote unquote, fund for that particular student per year. And it's almost always shocking to people. They say they think we could pay what? Didn't they read the numbers we put on that form? So that's not proper planning. What we want to do is take a look at what the government or colleges think our clients could afford early on, and then utilize whatever strategies that we have to be able to help them qualify for the maximum amount of financial aid and budget properly and make smart decisions accordingly.
On a community affair this evening, we're speaking with Stephen Sirot and David Slater, co-founders of College Benefits Research Group, an organization all about helping students and parents get the tools they need to successfully find the college that is right for the student and in order to help pay for that college and just finding the right college in general. I can look back into the not-so-distant past and tell you that my junior year of high school was very big for me. In many ways, it was more important than my senior year of high school because that was when I truly started to look at a lot of the colleges that I wanted to apply for, colleges that interested me, and more importantly, colleges that would benefit me down the road, would help me get a career in colleges I certainly can afford. Am I alone, or does it seem like junior year of high school is really a key time in a student's life nowadays?
So junior year is what the schools basically reference when they're looking to accept a student. If you think about it, applications go in as early as September of the student's senior year. But September is when you're starting your senior year. So if they're starting their senior year and they're putting applications in, it certainly can't be based on the academic success in your senior year as much as it is as the balance of what you've done up through your junior year. So yes, the focus is very much on your junior year in high school, although the colleges will look to see that you finish strong and you actually are maintaining that through your senior year.
It is true. The junior year is definitely a big year, okay? It could be a game changer because many students, when they transition to high school, it's a different way of learning. There's more freedom, but more responsibility. Some take longer to adjust, and maybe it takes until their sophomore year before their grades are more reflective of their true abilities. So once their GPAs start to go up, and here you have it, where you started off slow, got a little stronger, and then by junior year, you're really hitting your stride. But your overall GPA is still anchored down by your weaker GPA in the earlier years. It's not very reflective of maybe what that student's ability really is. So many schools will look to see if you are trending up. And if you are, many students that think maybe I couldn't get into a school, well, maybe they have a better shot than they thought if they really turn it on at late in the game. So it's all about finding schools that care about what their students' experience is, what they have to offer, what their grades are trending. If they're strong test takers, then go to schools that care about, standardized tests. If they care more about student attributes, then find schools that will take the time to examine students for their attributes. So it's all a matter of fit, and they really want to actively start to build that college list really early in the junior year. So by the time they're ready to go and apply in their senior year, they're very clear with the 8 to 12 schools that they're applying to and why they're applying to those schools.
You mentioned standardized tests in there, and again, I can speak from personal experience and tell you that my junior year of high school, I took the SAT twice. And leading up to that, there were many standardized test prep courses that were offered around my school, around my area. So it seemed to me that at least where I'm from, North Jersey, the standardized tests were very important to the college search, whether it be the SAT or the ACT or what have you. What exactly is the value of standardized tests? Does it vary from college to college?
For sure, and I'll just tell you right off the bat, the reason that we all keep a box of tissues in our offices is because of the standardized tests. We'll ask a student, how'd you do? And that's when the tears start to flow for too many of them. And they didn't even tell us how they did. And sometimes we hear the score and we're like, that's fantastic. But they set themselves up for certain expectations. What they should be focusing on is a proper strategy for how to go ahead and handle that experience. It starts with proper preparation. We believe that you should never just take an SAT or an ACT just to see how you think you do. Because when you do that, you get a score and it's on record. And if you haven't prepped properly, it's almost certainly not your best score. Okay? So you're much better off utilizing a prep tool to help you try to do your best each time you take the test. So as a general rule, we're advising our students to fully prep, take either the SAT or the ACT to start, then fully prep, take the other test, see which one they may be better suited on, and then maybe fully prep and take it again if they need to. And certainly most of our students do end up taking at least 2, if not 3, tests throughout their experience. But there's many different ways that you can prepare. Could be books, online, classes, tutors. They all have their merits, but what a student wants to analyze is what is the best preparation tool for them. Some need that tutor to motivate them, to discuss the situation with them, but those are also very expensive. Some just say, you know what, I need a book. I need to practice question after question, and just give me that book and leave me alone. Okay, I personally think some of the online courses are fantastic because you could fit it into a busy schedule, and it's visual as well as auditory. It does a great job in diagnosing your strengths and weaknesses. But at the end of the day, there's not one tool that's right for everyone. You have to go ahead and find the tool that works best for your student.
One other thing I want to throw out is that the colleges look at the SAT scores just like they look at basketball players and say how tall and what are their averages. They care about them because it's the only way that parents can evaluate a school relative to other schools that are not in their area. They don't know how students are doing in other schools. If I tell you I got a GPA of a 3.5, a parent's going to say, well, I don't know how your school district is. I don't know what the level of competition is. But when we talk about SAT and ACT scores, that's why they're standardized. The problem is, just because you do well on an SAT or an ACT, you may be a very good test taker, but you may not be a very good student. So schools really focus on these things as just one of the part of the criteria as how they evaluate schools and how they evaluate the students. And students sometimes get all caught up in it. They should really be focusing on their GPA, and their SAT, ACT score is just, and it should be reflective of what they're doing in school. Otherwise, it could actually be a confusion for the school. Why are they getting such high test scores and they're getting C's in their grades?
There's also a reality that some students just don't test well, and more schools are going test optional. That is a big trend with many, many schools. So if we have a student that prepped, took the test multiple times, put in their best effort, but it really doesn't reflect what type of student they are, we're going to start focusing in on some of those spectacular schools that don't require you to send those in.
We're back on The Community Affair. I'm WGLS Public Affairs Director Jackson Baird. On the program today, we're talking with Stephen Sirot and David Slater, the co-founders of College Benefits Research Group. So when it comes to colleges, it seems like it's exactly like searching for a job. It's all about a resume, building a strong resume to impress colleges to get in. With that in mind, we cover standardized tests. What about advanced placement and honor classes? What about extracurricular activities? What sort of role do those provide in students searching for colleges and getting into college?
They definitely play a part, and this is a big mistake that many families make in thinking that their standardized test scores or their GPA is going to carry them wherever they want to go. And that certainly varies from school to school, but when the schools require an essay or 2 or 3, we had one student last year had 22 essays for the 10 colleges she applied to, okay? Also, many of the schools interview, whether you go to the school, meet with an advisor, or even remotely. They look for extracurriculars. They look to see what you're passionate in, okay? Those outside things sometimes are even more important than your grades with some schools. They really could rule the difference maker between getting into a school and not. And so you have to focus on the process holistically, assuming that if they're asking for all these things, you have to do your best on all of them, get them in. Okay, that could include recommendation letters. We've seen that, where students wait too long figuring, well, they're not that important, so they send everything else in and they're late with the recommendation letters, not realizing that until a college has all of the requirements, they probably won't even start to review an application. So if they're asking for it, take it seriously, do your best.
Gentlemen, final thoughts. Anything that we didn't mention before that you want to bring up right now before we have to call it a show?
Sure. Plan early. Okay, we see a big trend now with so many people coming to us when their kids are freshmen and sophomores, even, if you could believe it. And it actually makes perfect sense, because we can help direct that student with the types of classes they should take, how to build a powerful application through extracurricular involvement and things that they care about and are passionate about, but also to work with the parents on how to position financially, okay, what they have, where they have it, how they budget, how they save, so that by the time we're ready to go ahead and fill out those financial aid applications, they're in their best position possible. So they definitely want to plan early. I would still say most of our clients come to us in the junior year, and that's definitely where we hit the ground running with our students to start that process of finding schools, getting out there, visiting, and making sure they're the strongest applicant they could possibly be.
And the only thing that I would add into that, or to summarize for kids, is that when they're looking to find the right college, try not to get swayed by what the colleges are selling to you, but to look at yourself and see what works for you. Who are you as an individual? Are you a very competitive person? Do you like to speak to your teachers one-on-one, or are you an independent thinker? What type of an environment are you going to be best suited for? Too many times kids are getting swooned by the names of a school, or they've seen them on TV because they've been in the Final Four, or they've heard of it because their friends have gone there, and they're not doing the research. And too often they get to these schools and they don't feel it's an academic or a social fit. Academic, they let them in, but it may not be a good social fit. And that's why people very often will not stay at the school, and they start doing transfers, and that complicates everything.
Stephen, David, thanks so much for your time today. One last thing, if anyone wants to learn more about College Benefits Research Group, or maybe acquire the services of the group, what do they do?
Easiest thing for them to do is come learn at one of our workshops. And we do free workshops in areas around our community. They're excellent. People love them, and they don't have to ever work with us after that. If they choose to, it would be great. But they could come and definitely get a wealth of information. And we do them pretty often. They could find our schedule of workshops on our website at www.cbrg.info. And they could also look at a lot of the resources that we have online. We have families that have gone through this that talk about what they've done, and a lot of our television appearances and radio appearances where we talk about how to plan properly are listed there, as well as a whole wealth of other resources. So go to our website, great thing to do. They could always, of course, call us as well at 888-802-2740 and speak to one of our advisors.
Stephen Sirot and David Slater joining us on the program today, co-founders of College Benefits Research Group. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.